Welcome to 60 Skills. In today's class, we will discuss the role of resistance training and the generation of vital force. The use of resistance training to increase a practitioner's access to vital force has a long and storied history in the practice of the internal arts. Most commonly, this was seen with warrior path or martial arts type training. Now, this was done for obvious reasons. The stronger a human being is, generally speaking, the more vital force they have. The primary mechanism for doing this, while utilizing resistance, actually involves training the ligaments and tendons in the body, as the ligaments and tendons and fascia tissue largely work as the pipes or road by which vital force travels into and out of the body. This is a little understood fact in esoteric training, but becomes highly important the less mental or cerebral an effect is, and the more physical it becomes. So join me on this journey as we learn how to train the vital force of the body by using resistance work. Let us begin. What equipment will you need to train vital force using resistance? Well, the good news is the kind of resistance is not terribly important. In point of fact, you can use a stationary object if you need to. While the result from this is not entirely ideal, virtually any force of resistance will work. So this can include barbells, kettlebells, dumbbells, resistance bands, bungee cords. Even ropes applied properly, if you can hold on to them long enough, will work just fine. So for the purpose of this course, you don't need to have a form of resistance that is terribly expensive. You just need a form of resistance that is functional. Traditionally, things like stone locks, and in some places I've seen even weighted concrete objects, work just fine. So keep in mind, all you need is a form of resistance and a place to practice these exercises. As a side note, you generally want to perform these exercises in a place where in the event you drop the object you are holding, you do not need to worry about damaging the floor. However, again, you can use purely stationary objects if that is the only thing you have available to you. I look forward to your joining me on this journey, and let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss resistance and the lines of force. To conduct this kind of training, you can utilize literally any kind of resistance equipment. You can utilize a squat rack. You can utilize a trap bar deadlift. You can utilize dumbbells. You can utilize adjustable dumbbells. You can utilize elastic bands. You can utilize kettlebells. You can utilize traditional stone weights. You can utilize a set of parallel bars. You can even utilize a pair of ropes hanging from a tree. I have also utilized ropes looped around a tree. Finally, lacking that, you can hold on to a heavy object, or you can use a post. Your training of resistance should only be limited by your imagination, not by your budget. Let us begin. As was mentioned in the introduction to the course, the ligaments, tendons, and fascia tissue in the body essentially transmit lines of force, esoterically speaking. This is also true in terms of conventional exercise, the result of which is quite curious. I've known a number of high-level practitioners, both students and teachers, who've told me many anecdotal stories about how a teacher of theirs, or they themselves, heard tale of some great Qigong or energy masters being in the local area, only to finally meet the masters in question, and it turns out they were powerlifters and Olympic weightlifters from a national level team. As has often been mentioned, your physical body provides the basis for transmission of energy. It also provides the basis for transmission of consciousness, although that is in fact more of a mental energy issue. So if you're interested in moving energy from the subtle to the more physical, or you are simply interested in generating energy at a high frequency at the physical, you are going to need the equipment to do that with. The equipment in this case is your body. The result of which is many of the strongest energetic practitioners in known history all came from a warrior caste background. The Buddha is not an exception to this. So the use of the body to generate energy is one of the more classical ways to do this. As a practical matter, the ligaments, tendons, and fascia tissue in the body appear to be the primary tool for transmitting this. Now, in other coursework, we have discussed the role of the matrices in the body. These are essentially the subtle forms of connective tissue that connect the physical body to the astral body, to the mental body, and so on. An interesting side effect exists from training the ligaments and tendons in the body. Interestingly, the subtle bodies get stronger, even if they are not being actively worked with. So the takeaway from this is, the more efficiently you can train the ligaments, tendons, and fascia tissue in the body, the more efficiently and effectively you can train the subtle bodies as well. At this point in time, in 2021, the most efficient and strongest way to train the ligaments, tendons, and fascia tissue in the body largely revolves around the use of resistance exercise. Integration of that tissue is another issue. But in terms of generating the tissue you need for a very strong astral and near physical level performance, resistance exercise is where it is at. So, what forms of resistance exercise work best? Your number one choice is what is currently viewed as Olympic weightlifting. The reason for this is rather simple. The entire body is trained under a load, utilizing natural planes of movement. And by the entire body, I mean just that. If you've ever seen somebody come out of the bottom of a snatch or the bottom of the squat in a clean and jerk, you understand what I'm talking about. Performance of these exercises will radically increase the strength of the connective tissue in your body and do it in a whole body manner. It will also make you physically stronger, which is a nice benefit. The second choice is conventional barbell training. And I mention this because while it is possible to learn conventional barbell training from a book, it is generally considered not possible to properly learn Olympic weightlifting from a book. So depending on where you live and your access to facilities with properly trained personnel, this can be an issue. In either event, getting stronger using compound movements that run the body through a natural plane of motion at this point in time appears to be the most effective and expedient way of generating more connective tissue in the body. Now, people are going to get into the issue of, I don't want to gain a lot of weight. Well, here's something to consider. The amount of weight you put on directly corresponds to your caloric intake while you're engaging in this training. Something many people simply do not understand regarding working in a training facility or getting exercise is what you put in your mouth after you've subjected yourself to a training stimulus is in fact just as important as the training stimulus itself. So if you're worried about gaining too much weight, just realize that entirely has to do with how much you're eating relative to the number of calories you are burning as a result of your day-to-day activity. Now, that said, the most efficient way to do this is to eat animal protein. Soviet studies have been in existence for over 40 years that make a very simple observation. The most efficient generation of lean body mass in adult males occurs with an intake of approximately 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So this is roughly 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And this needs to be done every day. So for a 200-pound man, this would equate to roughly 200 grams of protein a day. Or if you prefer the metric system, a 95 kilogram man will require 200 grams of protein intake per day. Now, this does not have to be kept up for the duration of your life, but eating this much protein will allow your body to generate far more connective tissue far quickly than anything else. So we've talked a little bit about diet, the ligaments and tendons, and how the ligaments and tendons move subtle energy through the three bodies. So I would ask you to consider this as your primary method of generating more tissue in the body. Next, we will get on to how to use the electric and magnetic lines of force in order to strengthen the movement of energy through the body. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the electric line of force. What is the electric line of force? The electric line of force, generally speaking, corresponds to yang in traditional Chinese medicine theory. It also corresponds to the divine masculine, and in general, any of the positive, pushing, hot forces described in other esoteric systems. Okay, fair enough, we get that. How do you generate the electric line of force? Well, this is the curious thing. It's most easily generated initially in a static position. So while there are definitely moving ways of doing this that are very useful for integrating ligaments and tendons and other soft tissues, strangely enough, training it in a static manner in the beginning is actually very beneficial. Additionally, training this under a load greatly increases your personal physical capability for generating other energies, not just vital force. So how is this done? Very simply put, you're going to push from the fingertips. You are going to be on the balls of your feet. Your arms and feet are going to be torqued out slightly, and the tailbone will be tucked in just a hair. Now, this is done in the unloaded manner. If performed in a loaded manner, use a neutral spine position, a strong spine position as you would in conventional weightlifting. This is to protect the discs in your back. So what you're doing is you're pushing from the fingertips, which is pushing the joints open. Once in this position, you are going to want to hold in that position. Then you will begin to pore breathe. Once you pore breathe like this for a few moments, you're going to start feeling this flowing, pulsing, warm force come out of the body. That is the electric. Now, there are a few other details that you want to keep in mind while you do this. You're going to hold the position. Again, you're going to push from the fingertips. You're going to be on the balls of the feet. You're going to pull from the top of the head as if the head is suspended by a string. And the tongue is going to be on the roof of the mouth or behind the two front teeth. When held in this position, this will generate the electric force. The sensation of heat may or may not be there, but what you should be looking for is the sensation of a pulsing, smooth energy projecting out of the fingertips. That is the electric force. That is the yang in TCM. And this is what we are going to be training under a load in this course. Now, why is this important? Well, interestingly enough, those ligaments and tendons we talked about earlier can actually be trained in two methods. One in expansion and one under tension. It's quite an interesting facet of traditional martial arts training, particularly in China. A lot of schools only teach the electric line of force. The electric line of force can frequently be seen in arts like kickboxing or Muay Thai. However, if pursued over a long period of time, this tends to result in a kind of imbalanced development. Ultimately, this is not healthy for the body. For this reason, we are also going to train the magnetic line of force, and we will be discussing the magnetic line of force next. Let us begin. What is the magnetic line of force? The magnetic line of force is yin in traditional Chinese medicine theory, the divine feminine, and in most other systems can be described as a cool, contracting energy. In training this course, and this energy in the course, what you will be doing is you will be pulling the joints open. The proper way to understand this sensation is to have a friend grab a hold of your arm and pull the joint open. That sensation of expanding in the joints is what you're looking for here. If you don't have a friend handy, you can hold on to a doorway and simply hold there in this open position. So you're going to be pulling the joints open. You're going to be on the heels of the feet. Additionally, you are going to be spreading the back. This is performed by pulling from the base of the skull and pulling from the base of the spine at the same time, opening the joints. So to generate this magnetic line of force, you're going to be pulling the joints open, pulling the spine open. You're going to be standing on the heels of your feet. The weight will be resting on the heels. If done in an unloaded manner, the base of the spine will be curled back, as if in heavy weightlifting. Just a hair. Under a resistance or under a load, you're going to want to use a conventional spine position with a slight curve to protect the discs in your back. Additionally, the tongue will be on the roof of the mouth or behind the two front teeth. Once you're in this position holding it, begin to pore breathe. After a few moments of this, you are going to notice a pulling in sensation coming up the inside of your arms and inside of your legs. This is the magnetic line of force being activated. And this is very crucial. Most traditional martial arts only teach the electric line of force. And this is simply because it's the easiest way for most men to generate explosive energy for striking and kicking. However, you'll find certain martial arts like jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or many of the wrestling arts actually utilize a lot of magnetic lines of force. And this is important because if somebody's projecting into you hard, and you can grab a hold of them and pull in that way, it's easy to take their center of balance and send them flying. Now, this is easier said than done in actual application. We're not teaching martial arts here. What we are doing is we're teaching you how to generate the magnetic line of force, because many energies that you train are not electric in nature. For example, water element is a magnetic force. So if you understand how to generate a magnetic line of force, then when you do the rest of your magnetic type energies, you can do them much stronger. It's really very simple. Now, the good news is under resistance, this is very easy to train. Because if you were, for example, holding a heavy deadlift bar, or holding some kettlebells, or a couple heavy suitcases, one in each hand, guess what that does? It pulls your joints open. It's already doing half the work for you. So this again is the magnetic line of force. It is a drawing energy that you can learn to generate upon command. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss building the ball in different types of energies that can be trained using resistance and vital force. You need to be able to perform the build the ball exercise in order to perform this exercise. However, the basics of this exercise are covered in this course. So once you've reviewed the material in this course initially, I want you to go back through and learn to perform build the ball until you can feel that vital force cleanly coming in through the pores and out through the palms of the hands. Otherwise, a key portion of this exercise will not be accessible to you. All right, if I can generate the electric and magnetic lines of force simply through static posture, why am I learning build the ball? A problem we have in esoterica is that we have no direct empirical mechanical method to determine how much of a given energy we are building. There's no machine you can plug your body into that goes, Oh, your vital force is a 6.4 today, and yesterday it was an 8.2. What happened? The best we can do, given the current stage of technology, is rely upon the strength of sensation generated. So, before you begin your practice with resistance objects, you are going to want to build the ball and get a feel for how strong it is. Then you will perform your resistance exercises, and resting between sets of that, you will again generate the ball of energy. You'll notice it will be different. Keep notes on this. As the days and weeks go by, you will notice that that ball of energy will get progressively stronger the longer you do these exercises. So, build the ball is useful for any number of reasons, but its main purpose in this system is to provide you a self-diagnostic so you can monitor your progression. So again, once you've reviewed this entire course the first time, I want you to go to the section that instructs you on how to build the ball and repeat that until you really have that technique down well. Okay, what about different kinds of energies? Initially, we are going to be working with vital force. Build the ball. However, the electric and magnetic lines of force apply directly to many kinds of energies. So, for example, if you're working with the elemental energies, fire energies utilize a electric body posture. By assuming an electric body posture and strengthening those lines of force, when you perform fire element exercises, they're much stronger. Air element exercises also use an electric line of force body position, although not quite as severely. Magnetic lines of force are utilized when performing water element meditations and earth element meditations. This can also be applied to the planets. The Luna or Moon is rather magnetic, so if you're working with that force, you're going to want a magnetic line of force. On the other hand, the Sun is definitely an electric line of force meditation. So you can see how by stacking these different methodologies one on top of the other, the lines of force, active visualization, the sounds, so on and so forth, you can greatly increase that energetic response of a given energy. And this can be applied to virtually any kind of energy. Additionally, the more you train these phenomena, the more sensitive you become to energies. So when you're moving around throughout your day, in your environment, and you come across something new or different, practicing these exercises greatly enhances your ability to decode and figure out what you were dealing with. Also, they tend to make you physically stronger and tend to reinforce health. To the degree we have a good definition of health, but let's be honest, that's an entirely different discussion. So again, to perform this series of exercises, you must be able to perform build the ball first, and that is covered in this course, and you must be able to generate the electric and magnetic lines of force independently in an unloaded manner. That is also contained in this course. Finally, you can train a variety of energies utilizing this technology. As has already been said, we are training vital force initially because this is the most useful to us in the short term. However, the fact of the matter is, these body postures, the electric and magnetic lines of force, and their related energies can be applied to virtually any energy you encounter, assuming you get the right body posture with the right energy. So, let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. Now, who can practice this material? The good news is anybody can practice this material. It doesn't matter if you're 12 years old or if you're 120 years old. I will give a few caveats. One, if you are malnourished, you are not going to be able to recover from this training effectively. So you're going to need to eat more than you normally do to properly feed the training cycle. You don't need to eat 5,000 extra calories. Just another 100 or 20 or 50 or 30 grams of protein a day are probably more than enough. But you will need to modify your diet a little bit. Again, if you're clearing out your refrigerator every night and put on 15 or 20 kilos, that's not necessary for this. Just understand any physical activity is going to require an increase in caloric intake in order to sustain it. Okay, what else should I keep in mind regarding training? If you have not yet hit puberty, doing this is probably not a good idea. It is probably not appropriate training for younger children. The reason for this is rather simple. They generally can't concentrate enough to do these things. So as long as you are an adult or a teenager who has the ability to focus, you can perform these exercises. Well, what about older people? Actually, resistance exercise is quite good for older people. Many scientific studies are coming out in this time period that indicate that resistance exercise positively correlates with elderly people maintaining their freedom and independence. Because the simple fact of the matter is, if you can't get up out of a chair by yourself, someone is going to need to help you with that. So the reality is anyone can train this, man, woman, adult, or younger person. I would, however, recommend against children practicing this method, as their bones are not yet fully formed, and it could result in some kind of stunting of growth. Additionally, if you do not have access to the caloric load necessary to support this training, you are probably better off doing something else. Let us begin.